Hi lovely folks, and welcome back to Weird Kindred. This video is an introduction to the upcoming series, How to Make a Simple Viking Age Tunic or Dress. This video is going to give you a quick explanation of what to look out for in the coming weeks and how it's all going to fit together at the end. If you're watching this in the future when the series is all finished, hey future people, then this will give you a quick overview of what you can expect from this playlist. Now, there is far too much to squeeze into one video. I want us to be able to take our time with each step so that you're completely confident before we move on to the next one. This video series is aimed at complete beginners. So if you've never sewn anything before, you're in the right place. Don't panic. There's a few other things you're going to need to know. I'd advise you to go over and check out my playlist on the basic Viking Age stitches, seam treatments and hemming techniques that we have available to us. If you've not done much hand sewing before, these are going to be really useful for you. There's a PDF that goes with the series if you prefer your information in written form, and you can use that and reference back to the video tutorials to help you learn all the different stitches and techniques that we're going to use in this series. New folks, don't panic. Editing Weirdling here. I've just realised that playlist might seem utterly overwhelming if you're very new to hand sewing. So I'm just going to clarify here which stitches and seam techniques you're actually going to need for making your first simple tunic or dress. Firstly, the stitches. You're going to need to know running stitch, back stitch and whip stitch, and those three stitches are covered in my Sew Like a Viking Beginner's Guide to 3 Basic Viking Age Stitches. For your seams, you're going to need to know a run and fell seam and a split fell seam, and those are covered in the video Viking Age Seam Treatments Part 1. And lastly, you're going to need to know how to do a simple turned hem with a whip stitch, and that's covered in my video Simple Authentic Hems for Viking Age Garments Part 1 Beginner's Guide. Right, back to the video. If you're a more experienced crafter, have a look through each section and in the comments please add any hints and tips that you've found really useful. What I'm presenting here is one person's method and we all approach our craft a little bit differently. You never know, your comment may just be what somebody else needs to read right now. So, to start off, we're going to have a look at the tools and equipment that you're going to need. Ooh. Now these will apply for any garment, whatever you're making. We'll go through the basic tools that you need, plus a few extras that are nice to have. These are modern tools. Some are modern versions of very old tools, but they're the ones that I use at home. I'll do a separate video for my authentic sewing kit later on, for those of you that fancy having a go at the crafting camp. Then we're going to look at taking a good set of measurements. We'll look at which ones you need for making your basic tunic or dress and how to take them on yourself and on other people. Now it sounds simple, but there's probably a few that you wouldn't think to take that are actually going to make the process a lot easier for you later on. All will be revealed, especially if you're making for somebody who isn't there with you and you can't quickly check a measurement. Having this good set well established at the beginning will really serve you well. There'll be a PDF that goes with this part of the series, and that will contain a record sheet with all the different measurements that you're going to take, a column for recording the raw measurements as they are, and then another column that you can use to calculate your ease and seam allowance. So when you're ready to start planning out your pieces, you've got all the information there ready to go. That leads us neatly on to the next video. In this one, I'm going to show you how to draw out your own pattern diagrams for a tunic or dress. Once you've mastered this method, you can use it for any tunic or dress across the Viking Age, and you can use it as a base to make variations as well. And again, there will be a PDF with a printable sheet so that you can record your measurements straight onto that instead of having to draw it out yourself. When that's done, you'll have a plan of all the pieces that you need to cut, and then you can then map that onto a sketch of your fabric to make sure that you've got enough for the project that you're working on. Now, if you've got a piece of fabric already, you can use to check that you've got enough, or ideally, you can use it to plan out how much you need to buy so that you're not over or under buying on your fabric. There is nothing more disheartening than getting to the last bit and finding you're 2 inches short. Trust me. As a general rule, a tunic is going to use 2 to 3 meters and a dress will use 3 to 4, depending on the width of fabric and the size of the person you're making for. Now, for any of my American viewers that are watching, you're going to have to calculate that into yards because my brain does not do yards. It does inches and meters, which is confusing, I know, but bear with me, it will all make sense. And that leads us neatly on to choosing fabric for your simple tunic or dress. Now, we all have a bit of bling, don't we? Whether it's a gorgeously fine broken diamond twill, some sumptuous silk, or a rich, deep colour. We all love it, don't we? Absolutely. But for your first kit, you're going to need to keep it simple, folks. We'll talk through the types of fabrics you need to be looking for your first kit. And this should be a tunic or dress that you can wear throughout the Viking world and in any of the time periods that you cover in your reenactment. The aim of the game here is to make something that can get you up and running with your reenactment without all of the extra bling that you're going to need to portray a higher status character. Low status clothing is not raggedy or boring as such. A well-made piece of low status kit can be so good. We've got a reenactor in our group who's done an absolutely brilliant job, and I'll ask him actually if he'll let me share a picture of it because it is a really, really good example of a basic kit. We all love the shinies. We're basically magpies, and if you spend any time at reenactment events with markets, you're going to start collecting pieces. But these pieces need to build a coherent character, and when you first start out, you're not going to have the chance to do that. It's going to take time to get that knowledge. So if you make yourself a really, really good set of basic kit that can then be adapted for different regions or time periods later, then that's going to stand you in really good stead. Luckily, these videos are also going to provide a base that you can tweak to make more advanced pieces of kit later. If you want to raise your status of your kit later on, you can take this basic technique, vary it a little bit, and have a much higher status garment. And we'll go over that in other videos. If you've seen the necklines and cuff tutorials that I've got on the channel, that's one way, and we'll talk about others later. But for now, we're going to get you sorted with your basic kit. Next, we're going to look at the importance of prepping your fabric before you start to cut. We're going to look at how to prepare it, wash it, dry it, iron it, do all the things that we need to do before we start cutting and making, and why it's so important. That'll be a short video, but it's a really useful one and a really important one. Then, once we've got the tools we need, we've got a great set of measurements, we've drawn out our pattern diagram, we've bought and prepped our fabric, we're ready to start cutting out. Now, how you're going to do this will depend on which tools you have and your personal preference, but I'll show you a couple of methods. We'll talk about how cutting the fabric with the grain or on the bias will affect your final garment. I'll show you some places to mark out on your main body piece to make things like centering your neckline easier and making sure everything's equal as we sew our way along. And then finally, I'm going to cut out the example pieces that I'm going to be sewing with you as we go along. Now, once all of that is complete, we're going to look section by section at how to pin each part together. We're going to look at how to protect the fabric from fraying as we work, if it's something like linen. And we're going to look at the seams and seam treatments used for each part of the construction. We'll start with shoulders and necklines. Now, if you can cut your fabric so that you don't need a shoulder seam, do that. Always recommend to go for that if possible. However, if you do need a shoulder seam like this one, here, we're going to cover the technique for that in the video as well. If you don't need a shoulder seam, you can fast forward past that bit and go straight to the necklines. I always like to get them done first because if you make a mistake, it's a lot easier to fix it while it's still a flat piece of fabric than it is to fix it once the side seams are sewn up. Ask me how I know. Now, on this example, you can see it's a simple round neckline with a keyhole slit. This fits close to the neck, as mine does here, and the keyhole slit allows you to get it over your head. We'll look at things like reinforcing these little edges here for a brooch to go through as well. And for those people that want them, I'll show you how to do a quick tie so that you can tie them together if you haven't got a brooch yet. The next video will cover how to attach the first side of the square underarm gussets to the sleeves, and then attach the top of the sleeves and the second side of the gusset to the main body piece at the shoulders. Then, once they're complete, we will sew up the sleeve seams and the third side of the square underarm gusset. Once that's done, we'll hem the sleeves. Now you can choose to leave hemming the sleeves till the end. If you'd like to try the completed garment on before you hem it, just to make sure you're happy with the sleeve length, you can do that, but we'll cover this process during this video. The next stage is to join the last remaining side of the gusset and sew the side seams down to where your gauze will start. I've switched to a different example here just to show you how that looks, because that one actually doesn't have this bit. It starts just from the end of the gusset here. This bit can be a little bit tricky, but as long as you take it one step at a time, you'll be absolutely fine. Then it'll be time to sew in the side gauze. A simple tunic will only have the two, one each side. Now you can use a single triangle gore, but if you're using the pieced gauze that we talked about in the pattern diagram video, then we need to get them sewn together, and then we'll seat the gore into the gap, first getting the top just right in this part, and then sewing down the lengths. And lastly, we'll talk about how to hem the bottom of your tunic or dress. I'll show you how to trim your bottom hems to get a gentle curve. This makes for a neater, much more regular finish. And then how to pin or clip the whole thing into place before you start to avoid it being uneven and bunching up in awkward places. Phew! Now, as you can see, there is an awful lot to cover there, and that's why I've split it up into smaller videos. It's a sort of a sew along, because I want us to be able to take our time and go over all the little details that are going to make a big difference to your finished project. Once you've mastered this basic technique, you can vary your pattern and your materials to create a variety of garments in different styles and different statuses as well. It's by no means the only method out there, but if you follow it step by step, you will get a wearable product at the end that will last a long time and you can be proud of. So I hope you're going to find it a useful addition to your skill set. If you save the playlist, it will update every time a new video is added. And that's all from me for today, folks. I'm going to go and get started on the first couple of videos in the series. Until then, look after one another, have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye.